Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Lantern Film Room. I'm Brian Nelson.
I'm Andy Anders.
And today we're going to be taking a look at some of the key highlight plays from the game where Ohio State beat Michigan 56-27. And there's one player in particular we're really going to highlight today, and that's JK Dobbins. Isn't that right, Andy?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so kind of walk me through what we're going to be looking at specifically with Dobbins.
So yeah, we're going to be looking at the success of Ohio State's running game, something we've looked at in the past, but really how they kind of dismantled and took advantage of the mismatches they had on the offensive line. Ohio State had a much bigger offensive line than Michigan's defensive tackles in this game, and that was something they really used to their advantage on the offensive side to establish their ground game with Dobbins. On the other side of the ball, we're going to be taking a look at Ohio State's secondary struggles in the first half, why Shea Patterson was able to throw for 250 yards, and then what they did in the second half that, Patterson finished 4 for 24 in the second half after exploding in the first. The complete turnaround. So we're going to look at where they struggled and then how they adjusted.
All right. Sounds good to me. Let's get right into it. First play is Dobbins' first carry of the game, I believe. It's the one where he essentially dribbled to himself, where the ball got stripped from him and it bounced right back into his arms. It was very fortunate, and he turned into a 34-yard run.
Yes, Brian. Not much analysis of that part of the play. That wasn't exactly planned or coordinated by the Ohio State offense. Very much a lucky bounce. However, the fact he could still gain 34 yards on a run after losing control of the ball is a testament to how well the play worked out. So what we're going to be watching here, this is a zone concept, and for those who haven't seen me break down this type of play on the show before, zone running concept is just, instead of these offensive linemen focusing on taking an individual assignment and pushing their guy up the field, blocking him, trying to get that movement on the front like you see in a classic power run scheme, the job of this offensive line is going to be to step right, which is where the motion of the play is working, and occupy a space, block a spot on the field. And whoever's there, that's who they're going to block. So up front, some blocks to highlight here. What really opens this play up is going to be Jonah Jackson here. After he steps right, he's going to get a seal right here in the middle, and it's going to be the hole that Dobbins is able to kind of slide through on this play. And he actually does get movement, right? After you occupy whoever comes to your spot, if you can move him, that's an added bonus. And I think that's something that separated Ohio State zone blocking from so many other teams. The interior presence of these three, who were all named all Big Ten, by the way, just recently, Wednesday, if this comes out on Thursday.
It'll come out.
It'll come out.
It'll come out tonight.
So today, they were named first all Big Ten, and this is why. You not only are you occupying as you're supposed to do in the zone, but then Jonah Jackson's going to get a little bit of movement and open the hole for Dobbins. Wyatt Davis here is also going to have a great climb to this backer, seal him off, and then Dobbins, you just give him that little bit of daylight. He's got the explosive quickness and the power to sneak through a hole and break a big runoff. So
let's take a look.
Let's take a look. Michigan's going to slant into the play, actually, instead of back or backside. But it doesn't matter. You see the movement right there by Jackson. Gives Dobbins that space he needs. And then he's into the second level.
All right. Yeah, and he really got lucky with that bounce. That could have been disastrous and given momentum really to Michigan. They could have been up by 2 scores.
Yes. And it was a great run nonetheless, though. I think Dobbins somehow, he's started to fumble a little more these past couple of games. We didn't see that from him earlier in his career, but it wasn't an issue going forward in this game, right? He didn't fumble again.
I mean, I think that's also not necessarily a fault of Dobbins, but just credit to the defenses he's been playing lately. Penn State was a very phenomenal run defense.
Yes. And yet he still has eviscerated both.
Exactly.
In the end. Michigan was a top 15 defense heading into this game, no longer.
Yeah, they were 13th in the country. They are now 23rd. So they dropped 10 spots.
Right. So now we're going to take a look at, that was an inside zone run. This is more of an outside zone run. And what's going to happen here, this is going to hit a little, outside zone is going to hit a little further outside. The running back's job on his own play is to kind of feel out the line, be kind of a patient runner, let it develop, and then find a hole and attack it, right? In a classic power scheme, we've talked about that comparison on the last play, you're going to have a designated hole that you're running straight into. You're hitting between the guard and the center, you're hitting between the guard and the tackle, wherever. Zone scheme, you can hit anywhere in a certain area of the field, and Dobbins' patience stands out on this play. He's going to wait as he comes down the line here for the hole to open up. And this is a key play. A big 6-yard touchdown run on 3rd and 4, right? If he doesn't break through the line of scrimmage on this, Ohio State has to settle for a field goal or go for it on a 4th and medium situation. But the blocking, again, helps him on this play. You get a great sustain here. You know, holding the block an extra half-second longer can give the running back the space he needs. Just watch the right side of Ohio State's offensive line here and how long they're able to hold their blocks. Not only that, but able to slide guys down the line as they're moving, communicating, peeling off of double teams, and that's going to give, again, it's going to hold Michigan at the point of attack long enough for Dobbins with great patience and great explosion to break through the line for a touchdown.
Okay. Let's see how it goes. Tight ends in motion. And the offensive line just moving Michigan's linebackers and defensive linemen completely.
Right. I want to go back and point out exactly what I'm talking about here.
All right, let's do it.
Specifically the communication between Bowen and Davis on this play, okay? Watch here. He steps right, and who's in his spot? The defensive end is kind of slanted outside, right? He's going to give him a punch, pass him right off to Davis, then come off on this backer. That allows Ruckert, who's come in motion now, to peel off on this backer, and that's what opens the hole for Dobbins. You can see again, look at the peel, boom, and a great block.
Yeah, that easily could have been a loss for a couple yards if not for the play of the offensive line. Yes. Speaking of the offensive line, you mentioned how a lot of them were named like all Big Ten, and really
all 5 actually.
All five, yeah. And really, they've been probably one of the most underrated parts of this Ohio State team because we've obviously highlighted how well Fields and Dobbins have played, but really the offensive line deserves a lot of credit for their success. What is it about this Ohio State offensive line that makes them so successful?
I think 2 things. The mentality up front. This group loves to hit. They love to play physical. They love to get movement up front. They take pride in being these road-grading, tough, physical-type blockers, and that works so well when you're trying to establish the run game. But then the other thing is the athleticism and versatility. We see Ohio State vary between power and zone schemes. I mean, we're going to see a power scheme here. And what that allows you to do now is you're able to beat a defensive line in so many different ways and exploit them through so many different runs on the ground. This is one of the 3 best run-blocking offensive lines in the country. They've shown that, and they're not bad on the pass block either. So.
Okay. All right, well, our next play is another Dobbins run. This was later in the 4th quarter. This is the last score of the game. This was like, what, a 33, 34-yard touchdown run?
Yes.
Okay. So what's so important about this play?
Well, Ohio State showed this play twice Saturday, and each time it gained at least 20 yards. So what's going to happen here? You've been running this zone concept all day. That's your bread and butter, you know, whether it's a zone read where Fields has a mesh point and he can keep it and go, or it's just a straight zone run to Dobbins like we've seen today. This step to the left, occupy a guy, that's Ohio State's bread and butter, right? So now you can run things off of that, and this is this is going to be a counter, right? An old school concept of football. You make it look like you're going one way, then you bring everyone back the other way. All of Ohio State's offensive line is going to block left on this play and pull Michigan's defense in that direction. Then Dobbins is going to take the handoff here. He's going to take his first step left, again pulling the defense over, bam, cut it right back to the right. Behind the heavy side of Ohio State's offensive line here, you see they have 2 tight ends in the set. I believe that's Ruckert.
That's Ruckert, yeah.
And Houseman. And Houseman has a tremendous block on this play, as well as Ruckert. They're going to seal off the outside here with the action moving left. And then Dobbins just cuts in behind them, and he has a huge alley to this right side. The safety who's come up into the box is supposed to be able to force him back inside. He gets sucked in by the action of the play, and it's a huge running lane.
All right, let's see how it plays out. We're going to watch Ruckert and Houseman here and look for the blocks they make. All right, zoom in.
And see how far he's caught out of position there?
Absolutely.
It's his job to come down and force Dobbins back inside.
And Dobbins just is too physical, has too much momentum on the side, and just slam dunks his way into the end zone.
Yes. Yeah, he went full Jordan on that one, just throwing it down.
Okay, let's talk about Dobbins a little bit, because he's a legitimate Heisman Trophy contender. Apologies. And I just wanted to ask in your opinion, what is it about Dobbins himself that allows him to play off this offensive line and create so much success for himself?
I think it's the explosion. He's so quick coming through the line. Once he gets his foot in the ground, he plants. He can come forward, accelerate so fast with so much speed that when you have an offensive line who can sustain blocks like Ohio State's does, as we've pointed out today, you find that hole from the sustain, and then you just cut right through, and you can break tackles moving through the line. His finish on runs is phenomenal. Even if he is met after a couple yards, he's going to fall forward for a couple more. His blend of power, quickness, and then, not the fastest back in the country, but fast still. He's just an all-around back. And then he's a great blocker, too. We've seen him pave the way for Fields on a couple runs this year. He had a huge blitz pickup in this game that we aren't going to show, but he had a huge blitz pickup. Can do some things out of the backfield. He had 2 catches that both went for 12 for 20 yards. Just almost everything you want out of a running back, Dobbins has.
Okay, let's kind of bring that into the context of Saturday's game in the Big Ten Championship against Wisconsin. Earlier in the season, back in October, Dobbins ran all over Wisconsin's defense, and at that time, that was the #1 run defense in the country. So, what are the keys, really, for Ohio State to have success again against Wisconsin now that they've seen what Dobbins can do?
Right. You're going to have to mix in a few different looks, and that's the thing. Ryan Day, we've mentioned some of his brilliance, certainly on the podcast and in this room, coordinating offense, and every week he seems to come out with a new look, a new play that they haven't seen from him before. This week they did a play action to the left, and then Dobbins leaked to the right, and it was a throwback. It was a brilliantly designed play to pick up 20 yards. So I think just the mix of looks, come out and hit Wisconsin with something different than what you did the first time you played them. They were able to really establish the ground game in that. I would actually look for maybe Ohio State to open the field vertically, maybe take a few shots to Olave or Garrett Wilson, whomever, early, and then you open that space for Dobbins to really feast on the ground.
Okay. And that will be helped by the fact that we're going to be the game will be indoors.
Yes,
so
exactly. There won't be bad weather.
Fields will actually have good conditions to throw in for the first time in like 3 or 4 games.
Right.
And we've seen the success Fields has had even despite the weather hampering him. So exactly. But let's kind of shift focus to talking about what Michigan did so well against Ohio State's defense. This was debatably the first time we really saw Ohio State's defense really challenge to the point where people were thinking that this could be a game that Ohio State loses because of poor defensive play.
Yeah, Patterson was making some great throws in this game. Threw for more yards in the first half of this game than any quarterback has thrown for in an entire game against this Ohio State defense, which ranks among the nation's best in pass defense, has all year, was #1 entering this game. I'm not sure if they're still #1.
They're #2. They're
behind Clemson.
They're barely behind Clemson. The difference, I believe, is less than a yard.
Yeah, they're basically, again, top defense in the pass defense in the country still. Patterson took advantage of it with great throws. This was brilliant scheming by Josh Gaddis for Michigan. Michigan has a really deep receiving core and a good enough offensive line to protect him. Patterson got some time in the first half, was able to pick apart Ohio State's defense with some quicker routes across the middle, some quick hitters on the outside, really worked to the middle of the field against Ohio State. On this play, you're going to see Pete Werner, who's defending on the low side here. Ohio State's in matchup zone, so if someone comes into your zone, you defend them. He's going to get sucked in by a play action on this, right? That's a classic concept of football we've seen since the forward pass was invented. Fake or run, throw behind where the defenders used to be. Werner, when he sees this tight end coming up the field, is supposed to run with him. That's his job on this play. You run with the tight end when he goes vertical. He gets sucked in by the action of the backfield. He's ready for the run on this, and then Patterson's just able to throw it right over his head for a big 40-yard gain to Sean McCune.
All right, let's see how it plays out. We're going to watch Werner.
You can see right here, it's this tight end. Acts like he's blocking, and then boom, right up the field. So, first of all, it was a great route by McCune. And this is actually just something I've noted. That fake block at the beginning helps throw off Werner's eyes, because if he's going to look to the tight end and then to the backfield, and then all of a sudden there's this action happening, it's easy to get sucked in. You just have to stay disciplined and monitor realize what's happening. You have to, as you see that tight end going vertical, you have to keep getting that depth and prevent that throw over the top.
All right, let's kind of move into the next play. This is another completion, this time to Ronnie Bell. It's just later in the second quarter, and this is another play where Werner gets sucked in by coverages. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, a little bit. Not him. It's not his. This play isn't directly him.
Isn't directly him, but he's still involved.
Yeah, and this isn't a bash on Pete Werner. Pete Werner had a great game this game, actually. I want to say that. Because he had a tackle on Patterson in the first half where he stripped a blocker and then tackled him at the same time. And in the second half, his pass coverage was phenomenal, as we'll see in a second.
Don't worry, I'm going to ask a question after we look at this play about Werner and the linebacker.
Okay, right. Anyway, this is just great schematics by Josh Gaddis, and I want to point this out. Sometimes there's nothing you can do. When an offense executes properly and when they're schemed properly, good offenses like Michigan's in this game, are going to gain yards, are going to score on occasion. So what we see here, Michigan pulls in. Nico Collins has been having a good game to this point. So what they're going to do, they're going to run a drag route with him, and that's going to suck up the underneath coverage of Ohio State's defense, who's in a cover 3 here. So they're going to suck in. These linebackers are playing underneath, and then you get 3 defenders dropping deep into cover 3. Cover 3. We've explained that concept before. And then, so what do you do against a zone defense? You find the hole in the zone. Michigan's going to create a hole between the underneath coverage of the defense and the deep coverage of the defense.
Okay.
They're just running Ronnie Bell right into that level, that area. To help suck up the underneath coverage, they run the drag route underneath with Nico Collins, and then it's just Ronnie Bell coming across the middle, and he's going to hit right between the two zones.
Okay, let's see how it plays out. And that was a nice throw by Patterson, really. If that was just a little bit off, that could have been intercepted by Fuller.
Yeah, it was. The timing was good. Maybe even just a touch late, but it was right on the money. I do want to point out that Bell took a big shot on this play, and these shots add up. Anytime Michigan came across the middle, they got hit pretty hard, as Hafley pointed out in our Tuesday press conferences. And I think that had an impact on some of the drops later in the game that you saw. But again, Borland tried to get back deep on this play, but it was just they were sucked up by the underneath routes that were happening with Nico Collins and also with McCune coming over, and then you find that little window, and it's enough to make a play when you have collegiate, like elite wide receiver talent like Michigan did.
All right. Well, kind of bringing that into context, the big question about this Ohio State defense coming in was how well the linebacking corps was going to play. Because last year they were easily the weakness of Ohio State's defense. This year the defensive line is easily the strength, but the linebacking unit has really stepped up, and really people like Pete Werner, Tuff Borland, Malik Harrison, Baron Browning have all shown a lot of improvements over last season. Now that they kind of had a rough first half, what is kind of the main thing you're looking from them for this Wisconsin game?
I think, I don't know if the first half struggles were entirely to blame on the linebacker group. But yeah, Wisconsin, it's going to be a lot of downhill running again, establishing this outside passing game. You want to watch the underneath coverage from the linebackers. I think Ohio State's linebackers have shown year in, year out, they're not going to have a trouble against a team that tries to run downhill with Taylor. If Wisconsin starts to stretch horizontally, then I'd look out for Warner, Harrison, and Browning, the 3 more athletic linebackers that Ohio State's played to really contain those edge runs. As far as underneath throws, that's where teams have hurt Ohio State a couple times this season. Michigan did it. Penn State did it a little bit. Michigan State. Underneath throws have been a way that teams have been able to move the ball a little bit against the Ohio State defense. And linebackers playing middle zones, those underneath zones, are important for that reason, or playing man coverage, as you'll see. So I think I don't have any concerns about the run defense of Ohio State, especially not if Wisconsin stays with its classic downhill running style. I think the underneath coverage will be more important for them Saturday.
Okay, well, shifting focus back to Michigan, let's look at a play from the second half where we see adjustments made by the Ohio State defense that led to an incompletion compared to the first half where Patterson was just lights out.
Yeah, Ohio State in the second half went straight man-to-man a lot of times. Saw a lot of matchup zone in the first half, right? You take a zone, defender comes into that zone, which is it's like a hybrid man-zone thing. This was straight man. You're going to see everyone just has a man on this play. They cover that man. That's all man-to-man means. And Warner is going to have Brandon Eubanks man-to-man running almost the exact same route he got beat on earlier that we looked at, and he's going to make a great play and break it up. Ohio State in the second half essentially says, and this is what you're saying when you come out in a straight man-to-man look, man-to-man, we're better than you. We have more faith in our defensive backs and our linebackers against whoever they're matched up with to make a play. And it worked. Patterson went 4 for 24. They still were mixing in zone because you can't just go straight one way or the other. Jeff Halfley knows that, obviously, but definitely a lot more true man-to-man in the second half, as you'll see on this play.
All right.
And you get the play action and the wheel route up the sideline, just like in the first half, but this time Warner's there.
All right. Simple. Bringing this back, we mentioned how weather's going to be good since they're inside a dome for Saturday. And one thing about Wisconsin and the way they played back in October was that they were limited by the weather as well. They were forced to run Taylor straight out of Ohio State because the conditions were not good for Jack Cohn to really pass. Is there any concern for this Ohio State defense to be worried about Cohn and him spreading the field with receivers like Quintez Cephas?
I think so. More concerned than the first game, certainly. I do think Wisconsin might score a little more than 7 points in this game. I still don't see them necessarily getting above 20. You always have concern for that, right? Especially when teams are going to want to throw quick passes and try to dink and dunk a defense like Ohio State's when they know it's really hard to just line up and beat a team like this. Ohio State's secondary is definitely deeper, especially if Shaun Wade returns as he's expected to do. I don't think Michigan has the weapons on the edges to really threaten the secondary, not like Michigan had. They have Cephas, but not a whole lot outside of him, not a whole lot of depth. And Cohn's a good, accurate passer, but he's not, I don't think he's the arm talent of a Justin Fields, Tua Tagovailoa, Joe Burrow, some of the top quarterbacks in the country. And you saw Ohio State kind of expose that a little bit the first time the two teams played. With Ohio State's strategy, the past however many meetings with Wisconsin, all these wins or blowouts that they've had recently, has been to take away the running game. In 2014, it was shutting down Melvin Gordon. Lately, it's been shutting down Jonathan Taylor. And force whoever the quarterback is to beat you with his arm. So will Cohn be able to beat Ohio State with his arm Saturday? I don't think so.
If Cohn is able to at least beat Ohio State for a decent amount of time in the game, could that open up lanes for Jonathan Taylor to expose Ohio State's defensive line?
I mean, yeah, you get a few play action passes off of it. I just don't see, with all the talent and the completeness of Ohio State's defense and the way we saw the first time the two teams played, Wisconsin always has these big physical maulers up front on the offensive line, and that's what paves the way for their running backs. But Ohio State is so athletic in its front seven on defense, they're able to work around those big hog mollies, and to borrow an old phrase, and shut down running lanes that are normally there. So I really just don't see, even if Cohn can find some rhythm throwing the ball, Wisconsin's not going to be able to sustain consistent drives in this game. Every drive. They might get a couple. If Cohn really just has a home run day, I think you could see them climb over 20, as I was saying earlier. I don't see them scoring 30 against Ohio State, and I certainly see Ohio State scoring at least 30 in this game.
All right. Well, I think that's all I have to add. I don't know if you have anything else you have to add in regards to these plays or the upcoming game Saturday.
No, I'm good.
All right. Well, I think that's all we have time for today. Thank you very much for watching another episode of the Lantern Film Room. We've had an absolute blast creating and doing the show when we've been able to.
Yeah.
So, as Andy, it's been an absolute pleasure.
It has.
So I hope you'll be able to see this show return in the future, maybe next season. I think that's all we have time for today, folks. Thank you very much for watching, and have a great week.
Thank you.